Hello, I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching another episode of Xplained, where today the United Nations' highest court has begun hearing one of the most consequential genocide cases of modern times. At the Peace Palace in The Hague, judges at the International Court of Justice have opened proceedings into allegations that Myanmar committed genocide against its mostly Muslim Rohingya minority. For nearly 1 million Rohingya refugees scattered across camps in Bangladesh and Southeast Asia, these hearings are more than a legal milestone. They are a long-awaited moment of recognition, accountability and hope. To understand this case, we first need to understand who the Rohingya are and why they've been targeted. The Rohingya are a Muslim Indo-Aryan ethnic minority who have lived for generations in Myanmar's western Rakhine state, bordering Bangladesh. But despite centuries of roots in the region, the Rohingya are not recognized as citizens by Myanmar. Successive governments have labelled them illegal immigrants, even though many families trace their presence back hundreds of years. Being denied of citizenship, the Rohingya face severe restrictions on where they can live, travel, study, work, or even marry. In effect, they became stateless in their own homeland. Human rights groups have long warned that this systemic expulsion laid the groundwork for something far worse. This systemic discrimination set the stage for extreme violence. In 2017, Myanmar's military, known as the Tatmadaw, launched what it described as clearance operations following attacks by a small Rohingya armed group. What unfolded instead was a brutal campaign that forced more than 700,000 Rohingya to flee across the border into Bangladesh. Survivors described mass killings, widespread sexual violence, villages set on fire, and families torn apart. Entire Rohingya settlements were erased, and a UN fact-finding mission later concluded that there were reasonable grounds to believe that genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes had taken place, calling the violence a textbook example of ethnic cleansing. Myanmar's authorities rejected those findings, insisted the military action was a legitimate counter-terrorism operation. But the international response did not end there. In a remarkable move, the small West African nation of Gambia filed a case against Myanmar at the ICJ in 2019, acting on behalf of 57 countries from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. That Gambia argued that Myanmar had violated the Genocide Convention of 1948, to which it is a party. Under international law, genocide is considered a crime against humanity as a whole, meaning any state has the right and duty to act in such when crimes are alleged. The case is being heard at the International Court of Justice and the UN's principal judicial organ. Unlike criminal courts, the ICJ does not try individuals. Instead, it determines whether a state has breached its international legal obligations. The central question before the judges is whether Myanmar failed to prevent genocide and whether its actions or inaction amounted to a violation of the Genocide Convention. In January of 2020, the court ordered provisional measures directing Myanmar to take all steps within its power to prevent genocidal acts, preserve evidence and report regularly on its compliance. Myanmar challenged the court's jurisdiction, but in 2022, the judges ruled they were competent to hear the case. Now, in January 2026, the proceedings have entered the merits phase, the most substantive stage of the trial. Over the next 3 weeks, judges will hear oral arguments from both sides, review evidence and listen to expert testimony. Some Rohingya victims will also be heard, though in closed sessions to protect their safety and dignity. Victims said they want the long-awaited court case to deliver justice. Let's take a listen in to what they had to say.
Zenni Kara Barmama Zulum Nijatan Hai, Ara Mabun Hadivalaya, Mabun and the Reb Goje Godor Radivalaye, Jinish Fatra Lutfat Goje, Gura Fan Harira on Talamaladie. Jinisai Goran Zoria, Aratun, Desha to Bargo di Valayara, Bangladesh, Madasi Ara, Edruzadam.
I Ashagorid as is a Kurutun, Ara Eneston, the Abu, the Zastic Ara Zianiki Sar, Ara Burmas, Firizabella Zianika Ara Ashagorid, Yana Rato is a Kurutu Ara Yan side, Bisarian side. Manifuna Nimaze, Ara Borma, Stamgoriore, Meolangare, Dorogori, Illa Junushat and Nova Nogoran, Ara in Lagure, Stongori as a Kurutu Arayan side.
Opening the hearings, ICJ President Judge Iwas Iwayuji outlined a detailed schedule that includes multiple rounds of pleadings from both Gambia and Myanmar. Speaking on behalf of Gambia, Attorney General and Justice Minister Dauda Jallow told the court that the case is not about abstract legal theory but about human suffering. He said Myanmar's military deliberately targeted the Rohingya with the intent to destroy the community, describing the alleged crimes as among the most brutal violations imaginable. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
It is not about esoteric issues of international law. It is about real people, real stories, and real group of human beings, the Rohingya of Myanmar. They have been targeted for destruction.
Myanmar is expected to argue that there was no genocidal intent and that the military response was proportionate and lawful, framing the events as part of an internal armed conflict. Far from the courtroom in The Hague, the hearings are being followed closely in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar, home to the world's largest refugee camp. Nearly 1 million Rohingya live there in overcrowded and fragile conditions, many still traumatized by the violence they escaped. For them, the ICJ case has sparked renewed hope. Refugees say that even if the court cannot directly enforce its judgment, recognition of their suffering would be deeply meaningful. Many believe a ruling against Myanmar could help pave the way for justice, accountability, and eventually safe and dignified repatriation. The case also carries implications well beyond Myanmar. Legal experts say it could set important precedents for how genocide is defined, how intent is established, and how states can be held accountable under international law. Its outcome may influence other high-profile cases, including South Africa's genocide petition against Israel over the war in Gaza. At the same time, Myanmar's military leader, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, faces a separate arrest warrant at the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity related to the deportation and persecution of the Rohingya. Myanmar itself remains mired in instability following the 2021 military coup, which overthrew the elected government and plunged the country into widespread conflict. In a notable shift, the opposition National Unity Government has accepted the jurisdiction of the ICJ and acknowledged past failures that enabled grave atrocities against minority communities, including the Rohingya. That acknowledgement alone marks a significant departure from years of official denial. The alleged Rohingya genocide trial is far from over. Even after the hearing concludes, there will be years of legal battles, arguments, and judgments. The case forces the international community to confront a fundamental question. If genocide is a crime that concerns all of humanity, who will be held accountable when it occurs? The bigger question, one of the rehabilitation and relief, demands answer, and for the Rohingya, justice may be delayed, but at The Hague, the world is finally listening. Well, that's all that we have time for on this episode of Explained. Stay tuned as we bring you more